Hello, you are welcome to Unit 3 of Cell and Tissue Organization course. Under the first two units, we looked at the general cell structure and function, and also the movement of substances into and out of the cell. So under Unit 3 of this course, we'll be looking at animal tissues. And first of all, we will start with the first two animal tissues, that is epithelial and connective tissues. Hope you enjoyed this course also. Stay with me. So under Unit 3, Section 1 of this course, we'll be looking at epithelial tissues. And so to start with, at the end of this session, you should be able to identify the 4 tissue types found in animals and describe the nature of epithelial tissues, and also name different types of epithelial tissues, and also mention 2 organs in the body where epithelial tissues can be found, and also state at least 2 functions of epithelial tissues. To begin with, we will start by getting to know what tissues are or what a tissue is. So any group of cells that bear similar appearance or characteristics and perform a common function are referred to as tissue. And in animals, tissues are grouped into 4 main categories. And these are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissues, and nervous tissues. Now let's have a look at epithelial tissues. The epithelial tissues are specialized tissues covering or lining surfaces and cavities of body organs. So the tissues that are found on the outermost or lines the cavities of body organs are epithelial tissues. And these tissues are mostly or normally closely packed. The cells are closely packed to form either one or more than one layers, and because they are closely packed, there is no spaces between the cells. And because of their closely packed nature, this enables them to function as a barrier against mechanical injury and also protect them against pathogens or protect the organ against pathogens and fluid loss. Epithelial tissues that line the surfaces of the interior of the body are called endothelia, and a singular is endothelium. So these endothelia are found to lie on the surfaces of some body organs or internal cavities, such as the heart or blood vessels, it could also be the lymph vessels. And these are separated, or these epithelial tissues are separated from the underlying tissue by a thin of connective tissues, referred to as the basement membrane. So this basement membrane functions to provide support and binds the epithelial tissues to neighboring structures. Epithelial tissues are said to be polarized in that they have 2 different sides. And the 2 different sides are the apical surface and the basal surface. With regard to the apical surface, this surface faces or lies outside the organ. It faces the outside of the organ, and they are normally exposed to fluid or air. So example is the epithelium of small intestine. So let's have a look at figure 13. That gives a representative diagram of epithelial tissue found in the small intestine. So these tissues are covered with specialized projections in that it helps to increase the surface area available for absorption of nutrients. The other opposite side is the basal surface. Epithelial tissues comes in different forms. So based on their shapes, it could be cuboidal epithelial tissue, or we could have columnar or squamous. For the cuboidal, they look like squares, whereas the columnar ones, the cells are much more higher than they are wide. And for the squamous, they are not very tall, however, they are flat. So another way of identifying epithelial cells could be based on the number of layers of cells or the nature of cell arrangement. So based on the number of layers or the arrangement of the cells, we could have simple epithelium, stratified epithelium, and pseudo-stratified epithelium. For simple epithelium, they are single cell layer epithelial tissue, and for the stratified epithelium, they could be layers or multiple layers of the cell. And the pseudo-stratified epithelium, a single layer of cells could vary in size. So different cell shapes and arrangements correspond or correlate with its distinct functions. The different types of epithelial cells will then be discussed in the next session for us to have an in-depth knowledge on all these types of epithelial tissues. For figure 14, for this particular slide, it gives examples of epithelial cells that are found in various parts of the human body. So the human body skin outer layer where we could find epithelial tissues, specific type or depending on the shape of the cells that are found on the outermost layer of the skin, which are epithelial tissues, comes with its specific name. And also based on this arrangement, the covering or the outer lining of the mouth, that of some internal organs such as the small intestine, the kidney, the lungs, and all that have their unique epithelial tissues to perform specific functions as demonstrated in this particular diagram. So this brings us to the end of Unit 3, Section 1. And under this unit, we've learned that epithelial tissues cover internal and external body surfaces, and epithelial tissues are closely packed, and this helps them to fight or to function as against a barrier against mechanical injury, uh, prevention of fluid loss, and also against pathogens. We've also learned that epithelial tissues are polarized in that they have two surfaces, that is apical and basal surfaces. The tissue is also classified based on the shape or nature of the cell arrangement, and we also got to know that based on the shape of the cell, we could have cuboidal, columnar, or squamous epithelial tissues. Whereas based on the cell arrangement, we could have simple, stratified, and pseudo-stratified epithelial tissues.